Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm so happy that you're here today. In today's video, we're doing something a little different. I am going to be doing some self-care, and we are going to be talking about my personal ranking for top 10 MCU, Marvel Cinematic Universe villains. We're just gonna have a little bit of a chill day. We're gonna relax. We're gonna do some self-care. You can see I'm not wearing any makeup. I have a mask in front of me and some eye patches, and we're just going to apply, we're going to relax, and we're going to talk about Marvel. I mean, can you imagine a better time? Because I can't. If you're new here to my channel, hi, hello, my name is Katey Unfiltered, and on my channel I usually like to talk about TV, movies, makeup, whatever it is that's capturing my interest. I'm always going to give you my unfiltered take, and usually on Mondays I sit down and I react to the latest episode of whatever new Marvel show has come out over the weekend, but we're in kind of a lull right now. There isn't any new Marvel right now, so not a lot to react to. So for now, we're just going to be sitting down. We're going to be having a lot of fun together. I may take a break here or there before Loki starts in June, but usually I am back here on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays with brand new videos. So if that sounds like your thing, please make sure to subscribe and come on back. I'd love to have you as part of the fam. All right, so going in, I'm using this Erno Laszlo Pore Cleansing Clay Mask. I do have oily skin, so clay masks are really great for skin types like mine. Going ahead and getting started, we're gonna work from 10 all the way up to number 1, and these are the villains that I personally dig the most. I actually love villains, not in like, oh, I love villains like they're so cool way, but in a way of like, I love a very conflicted villain. I love a villain that I kind of get why they are the way they are. I get their mission, I get their vision. I love a villain that almost makes me root for them. I love one that makes me laugh. If I can root for them, if I understand their motivations, if I almost feel sorry for them, that's kind of what I look for in my villains. And this list, I think, is pretty reflective of that. So let's go ahead and get started. Number 10 on my list is Alexander Pierce. So Alexander Pierce is the villain in Captain America Winter Soldier. So this is the second Captain America movie. And I chose Alexander Pierce because he's a guy, first of all, Robert Redford, hello, all the things. I chose Alexander Pierce though because I think this role in particular and this movie added a sense of seriousness to comic book movies. It added a little bit of realism and started a really cool political conversation, really exploring what freedom means and what it means to be a nation like ours, be almost like the arbiters of freedom in a lot of places in the world, being the example of what freedom can be in the world. And I love Alexander Pierce because the way that Robert Redford plays this character just brings a sense of gravitas and seriousness to honestly just being Hydra and being the leader of Hydra within the World Security Council. The last appearance of Hydra was with the Red Skull, and it was very classic comic book, very cartoonish, very grand. And Robert Redford brings such a different energy to the role, to the movie, and to the MCU that honestly gave it a little bit of street cred and a little bit of street cred when it comes to what comic book movies actually can be, and that you don't always have to have them exist in this comic book movie genre of these cartoonish heroes and villains and, oh, they have red skin and 6 eyes and, robot arms. It's no, sometimes a comic book villain is Robert Redford in a suit. And I love it. Number 9 on my list, I've already mentioned him, but it's the Red Skull. You'll notice a pattern here. It's that a lot of the villains that I chose are actually very much related to the actor or actress who plays them. I know that that's probably not the most logical way to go about it, but honestly, if you can get some of these A-list, star quality, amazing actors and actresses in the role, it can make it or break it, and it's a big part of it for me. Hugo Weaving is absolutely insanely amazing, and just doing his classic Hugo Weaving thing in this movie, he's so perfect. He brings such a, again, I'm going to use the word gravitas, but he brings something so interesting to the character that honestly, it's a Nazi gone even worse who does experiments on himself, and now he has a literal red skull and looks like a skull on a human body just walking around raining havoc. And I can see how that would be somewhat challenging not to portray in a cartoonish way, but he somehow nails it, where he somehow rises above the cartoonishness of it all and elevates the role to this huge, bombastic, mustache twirling, dramatic, yet totally terrifying and believable character. There's something that's also just so perfect about that era of Captain America, that, Nazis gone bad. And I felt like they did a really good job of showing how Hydra was related to the Nazis and how they're extremely different. Number 8. Oh, this feels so good and I'm so relaxed. I'm sorry, this is probably weird for you guys to watch, but I am having a great time. I've got a big girl beverage and I'm just living. Number 8 on my list is Eric Killmonger from Black Panther. This one is a challenge. In my kind of analysis of all these different villains, I actually realized that Eric Killmonger is very, very similarly written to Karli Morgenthau from The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. And here's why I think that. They're both very, very sympathetic villains that have motivations that you can honestly get behind. Like, you understand why they're so upset, and you understand that what they're actually trying to accomplish is somewhat positive. They have good motivations that you kind of understand, but the way that they go about it is what makes them a villain. It's bringing such violence and murder and cruelty is the reason that they're villains, and it's not necessarily because of what they're trying to accomplish. And I think that's honestly my favorite type of villain, because you get them, you understand them, you can almost root for them, and it brings this added level of drama to the movie and to the plot that I just personally really enjoy. Also, Michael B. Jordan, I mean, I don't even have to say it. Do I? I don't even have to say it. He's stunning in this movie, and it's a real shame that he won't be coming back. It's really honestly heartbreaking, because I felt like he brought something so unique to this character and made it so enjoyable and made Killmonger even more heartbreaking of a character, and just brought something so... He brings such a sensitivity and such an anger, but the anger of the character really honestly comes out in sadness, like an extreme sadness rather than in just rage. I love this character. I love the plot of Black Panther in general. I just thought it was really interesting how much I felt Killmonger and Karli Morgenthau actually ended up having in common in how the writers chose to use those villains in each storyline. So I think for number 8, I actually have them tied because they were so similar. Number 7 is Ego from Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. First of all, I love this movie. I know it's not a favorite among a lot of people, but I thought Kurt Russell was hilarious in this role. And I love that Ego is someone that is so likable. He's so funny. He's charming. He's handsome. He's all the things. And I think on some level he does care about Star-Lord. I think that he does care about him, but only to the extent that it really affects him and that it really applies to him and his life. And narcissistic parents are such a challenge, and I think it's something that you don't often see played out in movies or TV. And I thought that they did a really good job of showing honestly what having a narcissistic parent is like, and representing that really, really honestly in a way that felt real to me, but also was just so fun and so funny. And how do you actually show villain that's also a planet? How do you show a villain that is also just the entire planet and make that make sense and not make it totally weird? They managed to pull it off, and I think really it came down to the strength of that performance. Number 6 is Hela from Thor 3. Hela is so badass. Cate Blanchett is incredible in this role, and she has this amazing, huge, bombastic costume, and really, honestly, it's so much that it will be easy for Cate Blanchett to get lost in the costume and, you know, have that kind of overpower her image. But Cate Blanchett is such an incredible actress and acted this to the fullest and just clearly had a blast playing this character that you don't necessarily, when you think of Hela, you think of that big like headdress that she wears, but you don't think of that instead of the performance and instead of Cate Blanchett. And she just clearly is having the best time playing this character. She's a blast to watch. And if you're stepping into a movie that has Chris Hemsworth and Tom Hiddleston at the forefront, you've got to bring it. You've got to bring personality. You've got to bring energy and excitement and humor. Those are big actors that bring a lot to the role. And in a movie like that, I think it could be really easy for the energies to be off. And, you know, I think if that had been any other actress in that role, it would have been really easy to lose her and forget about her in that movie because the movie is so wholly concentrated elsewhere. I just thought that she brought something really, really interesting to that character. But beyond that, like, Hela is such a fun villain. She isn't concentrated on some grander mission other than her own self-interest of just like, well, I'm the oldest and I should be ruling, and dad was no better. I helped him, and just because he decided that he was going to be in charge and he rewrote history doesn't mean that all of these horrible things didn't happen to put him in power. And the honesty that that character brings to the history of Asgard and the history of the family, honestly, I think makes it super, super interesting because Thor himself has this grandiose idea of like being pure of heart and, you know, being this amazing leader and being born to lead. But in reality, maybe you weren't born to lead. You just had a dad that was kind of an asshole and went and murdered a bunch of people and put himself in power. You know what I mean? Like, I thought that that was a really cool dynamic to introduce considering where Thor's character ends up after Endgame. Number 5 is Ronan the Accuser. So I love this villain and I love Lee Pace and the way that he plays Ronan the Accuser. I think it is so fun. Just all of the body paint and that opening scene with him laying in that pool of blood and coming out of it and getting all dressed in the Kree attire is just so haunting and such a perfect introduction of that character because he is supposed to be this religious zealot. So introducing him in his like religious cultural attire and showing all the rituals that he goes through and the things that are important to him, it brings this like level of understanding humanity to the character and why he is the way that he is, and why rather than just having him be like Ronan the Accuser, he goes around destroying stuff and he goes around accusing people of things. It's like, no, like, we gave him like this really cool, interesting, different background than any other villain in the MCU has. I'm really bummed that he got destroyed in that movie, but I'm glad that they brought him back for Captain Marvel. He was, in my opinion, the best part of Captain Marvel, because you guys know I'm not a big fan of Captain Marvel, but I thought that he was the best part of that movie, and I'm hoping in future Captain Marvel iterations we get more of Ronan the Accuser because he is such a fun villain, because he's a zealot. He's a character that really believes in what he's doing, even though it's kind of insane, and he uses his beliefs as his motivation. And I think that he just brings something really cool to the universe to show a different aspect of all these different cultures that exist in the universe. And with that, we are halfway done with this video. I am going to go and wash off my mask and I will be right back. All right, guys, I'm back. I've washed my mask off and my skin feels amazing. It feels so good. You can see a lot of the redness is gone. A lot of my shininess and my oiliness is gone. For the rest of this video, I'm going to be trying out for the first time the e.l.f. Hydro Gel Under Eye Mask. We're going to try these out. Usually I like to do these when I'm traveling or if I had a little too many adult beverages the night before. The next morning, putting these under my eyes makes a world of difference. But you know, it's Self-Care Sunday and we're just hanging out and talking about Marvel. So we're going to go in and we're going to try these out tonight. Usually it's just like a bunch of glycerin and hyaluronic acid, which glycerin, niacinamide, Yep, it's exactly what I thought it was going to be. All right, so we're going to let those sit under my eyes for the rest of this video. All right, so I thought we were halfway through, but we actually only have 4 villains left in this video. And by the way, before we move on from Ronan the Accuser, I mean, he has like the best slogan, like saying, I think out of almost all of these guys, like, you stand accused. Like, hello? Come on. So iconic. He's also like kind of weirdly hot. Like, I know he's blue and I know he's evil and I know that he's like, you know, a mad villain and all of that, but like, he's kind of like hot, right? Like, he's like hot. You know, he's like coming up out of that like pool and they're like dressing him and stuff and you're like, yeah, I get it. Yeah, he could get it for sure. Number 4 on this list is my boo bear, Zemo. I love Zemo so much. I especially love Zemo now that we've seen way more of him in The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. He is so perfect. Like, dancing Zemo, like, come on. Like, he's just hilarious. He's funny, he's charismatic, but he's soft-spoken, very, very smart, very cool. The accent, like, kind of does it for me. I kind of, like, get it, you know? I kind of, like, I'm into it. And he's this, like, very, very rich, very wealthy, but very family-oriented person. Like, let's not forget that the whole reason his villainy began, well, at least in the MCU, the whole reason his villainy began is because, like, his family got murdered, and he was like, hey, I've got to avenge my family. And who doesn't love a family man? Am I right? Number 3 is my guy, Ultron. I love Ultron as a villain. I love the way that Ultron is portrayed in Age of Ultron. James Spader is such a perfect choice for this villain. I love the biblical approach that Joss Whedon took to Ultron in the writing, and for the sake of this video, I want to put aside all of the problems that we have with Joss Whedon. I am fully acknowledging that we are exclusively talking about the characters, the way they're written, and the actors and actresses who play them for the sake of this video, so I understand. But you can't deny that the writing is excellent. Like, just go and listen to any Ultron speech. Go and listen to him, like, sitting in the church with that cape over him, like talking to Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver for the first time, and how he sees himself as a god and wants to build his church and throw a rock at the earth. Like, the writing and the speeches are just so awesome. And I think it's honestly, like, don't hate me for this, but I love movie Ultron way more than comic book Ultron, where comic book Ultron is really just kind of like a mad robot, and that's great and that's fine, but in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, all of a sudden Ultron is he's a mad robot, but he's a mad robot that has these Shakespearean level speeches that kind of get you rooting for him. You're like, this guy's crazy, but like, I want more of that. I want to see more of this. And just his like psychotic breaks throughout the movie, being compared to Tony Stark and wanting to break with that, break with his identity and break with what Tony Stark, you know, kind of put into him, and not wanting to be related to him at all, except that he's more similar to him, arguably, than he would care to realize. I just think that the writing in this movie is so excellent, but most importantly, the way that Ultron is written as this kind of like psychotic god in a robot suit is just perfection. Number 2 on this list is, without question, Agatha Harkness. I freaking love Kathryn Hahn because I am human. She plays this character with such delight, such a likability with a touch of insanity. And I love what she brought, and she gets you to almost feel sad for her at some points when you see what happened with her mother and her sisters. But then by the end of it, you're like, oh, nope, you crazy. You a crazy bitch. And I am here for it. If only for the fashion. I am also here for the dynamic between her and Scarlet Witch to be further explored in later Marvel Cinematic Universe installments. She's such a delight to watch. Her foundation is in comedy, but I think that she's an actress that has been just kind of boxed into only comedy for so long, and we're only just now being able to see these other sides of Kathryn Hahn, and I'm so glad that she was able to step into this role. And Agatha Harkness is a character that I personally really like from the comics, and they chose to take her in a different direction in the MCU, and that is totally fine with me. I really, really like the direction that they took the character, but this mentorship relationship that Agatha and Wanda can have, I really hope that they get the chance to see that in later installments, because I would love any sort of TV show or movie that has Agatha and Wanda just like forced together, almost like in a buddy cop fashion, and forced to work together. If they can find some common ground and find a way to work together, and almost Wanda still gets to get that mentorship from Agatha, I would die. Regardless, Agatha is such a fun villain. It was one of the more obvious villains. You know, they tried to keep it secret, but we kind of all knew that it was going to be Agatha. And yes, we all also thought it was Mephisto, and I still stand by that. I feel like they pulled the rug out from underneath us, and I still stand by it. But it was just such a fun build up, and she made it so fun to watch. I live for Agatha Harkness, and I live for Kathryn Hahn. And finally, at number 1, we all knew, and even though I felt so stupid putting this on the list, I mean, I didn't really have a choice. It's Thanos. Come on, it's Thanos. He's the villain of all villains. And I think a lot of people have like a problem with Thanos, but Thanos is that classic villain that I personally like. I love a villain where you kind of understand his motivations and you can really get behind what he is aiming to do. What he's aiming to do is save the universe from a universe that is destroying itself, at least in his mind. But the way that he goes about it is completely psychotic and really not helpful at all. Like, if you have all of the Infinity Stones, why is your solution to kill half of everybody versus like, can't you just snap your fingers and get rid of global warming? Or snap your fingers and create a bunch more food, or snap your fingers and like get rid of all the weapons in the world. Like, I don't know what that would look like, but I'm like, hey dude, like, you need to dream a little bit bigger and a little bit more positively. Your motivations are right, but your methodology is kind of fucked. But he's, again, this villain that's written with these beautiful Shakespearean mustache twirling speeches. And he's so juicy and fun to watch. Thanos is without a doubt a fun villain, one that you look forward to seeing on screen, one that I'm very sad is now gone and that he won't be coming back, although knock on wood, because who knows, anything could happen. And Josh Brolin just brought such a fun energy and a sensitivity to him where you really started to feel for the character, especially when you see him in his relationship with Gamora, and you also get to see how much she loves him, and there is something that's still at some level lovable about him and father-like about him. And I love how they use Thanos, and they don't just make him like, well, he's bad and he's a villain and so you should hate him. It's like, no, they gave him all of these layers that made him so iconic on the level of like Darth Vader. Thanos is Darth Vader level villain, you know what I mean? Like, he will go down in history as one of the biggest, greatest, most baddest villains of all time. All right, guys, it's time to take these off. And with that, that's the end of this video. We did it. The top 10 villains in the MCU, in my opinion. What did you think? Did you agree with me? Do you think that I missed some? Are there some that you disagreed with? Let me know down in the comments what you think. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to leave it a like. And if you like videos like this, please consider subscribing. I'm back here usually on Monday, Wednesday, Fridays with a brand new video. So I'd really love to see you join the Unfiltered fam, and I love to meet you guys down in the comments, so feel free to say hello, even if you are not into the Marvel thing or into the self-care and skincare thing. Feel free to just say hi in the comments. I love meeting you guys. Thank you guys so much for being here and spending your time with me. I love making these videos. I hope you enjoy watching them as much as I enjoy making them. Thank you so much for being here, and I will see you on the next one. Bye.